Hello and welcome back to the show. Now, I don't know if ever you thought, I really have a big goal. There's something massive I've decided I want to achieve. Well, in the words of my guest today, it's really important to set yourself a big, hairy, audacious goal. Well, what is a big, hairy, audacious goal? We are going to find out today with my amazing guest. Also, if you are thinking about setting yourself a big, hairy, audacious goal, what does it actually mean for your success in business as well, particularly if you're just starting up a new business? And of course, indeed, if you have commitments where it relates to your family and your business, how do you make time for those preparations and that training that you may have to put into place? But also my guest today, it's really important. He feels fitness, it's about making it as an accessible tool that can really help shape your later life and then give you the most vigorous and active life you ever thought you could have. It could be possible for you. Well, he is also the author of an award-winning memoir called Racing Against Time. And this is about pushing the limits in midlife. He actually took part in a 10K at the age of 48, which started him on a fitness journey, which led him to take part in 2 Ironmans and one grueling 72-mile ultramarathon in his late 50s and early 60s. He is also a seasoned entrepreneur, and he is the former C-suite executive of a startup that sold for $3 billion. He has a degree in law and biotechnology, and his story is really at the intersection between endurance, reinvention, and performance. And we are going to be exploring what it means to race against time and win. So welcome to the show, Jeff Weiss. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I can't wait to get it because you have quite an exciting story. And a little bit later on in the podcast, we want to get into your book because that really sets the scene for, your story and then your strategies and how you managed to achieve such success and do all this training and these ultramarathons, etc., all this. But you also managed to maintain this level of fitness and the importance that fitness is to you in your achieving success. And then obviously people can learn from what you've achieved and what you've done and what you feel is the best way to sort of incorporate life, health, fitness, business, and fun, I guess, at the end of the day. So before we get into that, would you mind sharing your stories of what led you down this path into all these crazy sports things?
Definitely. I was into sport. I was an athlete when I was younger, played tennis during my college years, and then became an avid weightlifter, powerlifter through my 20s before getting married and settling down and starting to raise a family. So I always had that in the back of my mind that I did enjoy sport and did still think of myself as an athletic person. But then, of course, building a career, raising 4 kids, fitness really did take very much a backseat for me. And then in my late 40s, my father passed away. And I think that really kind of focused me that my fitness, my health isn't something that I can just take for granted. And I think for a lot of us, and certainly in my case, I tended to think subconsciously perhaps, that fitness was something I could attend to later when I had more time. And I kind of realized there's no more time to be putting this off, like the later is now. And so that's what really got me started on, I need to do something, and decided to take on a 10K. It was something I tried when I was 17 and ended up walking the final 2 miles. It was a bit too much for me back then. So it seemed like a good way to start to kind of finish some unfinished business from my youth.
And what was it that was important in particular about thinking, right, now I've reached 48, I'm going to start now? What was the main trick? What was it you were thinking of? What is this going to do for me? What's important for me about this?
I always believed that fitness was important, that it led to a better quality of life. It gave you more of an ability to do the things that you love, whatever those might be, skiing, hiking, playing with your kids, with your grandkids. And I wanted to have that kind of life. And so decided that it was time for me to get serious about it. I just could feel that I was slowing down, getting a bit weaker, and that was gnawing at me. And then seeing, kind of at some point in life, we do stop getting second chances, I think, when it comes to our health. Yeah. And having watched my father-in-law decline, realized that it was not something that I could take for granted.
Yeah. So obviously this was, I guess, a catalyst for you in this journey that you've been on. And what have you found? I mean, this in terms, you're obviously very successful now, but in terms of taking part in these sports, what has that given you in the sense of helping you achieve that success? Because I think a lot of people don't correlate health and fitness with success and business success or any success in anything. I mean, I'm a strong believer that, when you're healthy and fit, it doesn't even necessarily need to be an extreme level. You just make better choices. Therefore, you increase the likelihood of your success.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I think there's another element as well. I think with respect to the first part, I do think there's a physical component to business, being able to work for long hours, weeks, months, years in pursuit of a goal. Especially as we get older, I think being more fit can help a person keep up with younger colleagues. I think in my company, by the end, I was the second or third oldest person in the company. I think my immediate boss was maybe 25 or 30 years younger than me. And so I felt that being in shape, being fit helps me kind of keep up with younger folks and to still be relevant. I never wanted to be that older person in the office who was losing touch and kind of moving slow and who just seemed to be kind of nearing the end of their productive days at work. I think that was part of it. I think too, though, there's so many things that overlap between sport and between business. You know, all these things that we hear so much about these days, resilience and grit and learning from failure and pursuing lofty goals. That BHAG concept that you mentioned at the outset, that comes from a business book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he talks about the importance of companies that can set a BHAG, a Be Hairy Audacious goal. Those are the companies that have really distinguished themselves separated themselves from their competitors and achieved great things. And I decided that that was something that individuals could do as well, to set a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and to go after that. And it really, for me, it really filled my life with a sense of adventure, excitement, that there were still new mountains to climb. And I think for so many of us, as we get to middle age, our worlds start to narrow, whether professionally, personally, from a fitness point of view. But I think that is something that we have some measure of control over. And I think making a conscious effort to be audacious can really change things.
Yeah. And I mean, like you say there about, I think as we're getting older, is there, from people you talk to, is there a sense of fear about, well, can I actually do this? Is it like a time constraint? Is it fear about hurting themselves? Or is it just a mental block that they just don't feel that this is possible for them? Because why should anything change just because we got a few years older? It's like anything, you just train for it, Yeah,
I think a couple things. I think in terms of the time component, and that, of course, that is a real concern. I do think we should regard health and fitness as a priority and we should make time for it. To me, I kind of borrowed from the world of personal finance. They tell you that if you want to save money, pay yourself first. Yeah. So when you get your paycheck, set aside money for savings before you start spending on what you need to spend for that month. And I think the same is true with fitness. Pay yourself first, which for me means work out first thing in the morning. You control typically that first hour or two of the morning. After that, it can be a little bit dicey, especially in the world of startups. All sorts of things can happen. And the lunchtime workout that you planned on doing or the evening workout, you may lose that opportunity. So if it's really important to you, put that first on your agenda. And then in terms of what we're capable of, I think in general, we place too many limits on ourselves. I love the book by Carol Dweck, Mindset. We really do, I think, want to cultivate a growth mindset, the thought that we can take on challenges that perhaps frighten us, that perhaps fly in the face of limits that we've placed on ourselves subconsciously in our lives. And I think we can be very surprised if we make the effort. Now, having said that, I don't actually consider myself an evangelist for any particular type of sport, whether marathons, ultras, Ironman. For me, that ended up really working and resonating, but I just think making a commitment to regular fitness multiple days a week, ideally 6, but if 6 isn't possible, then 5. If 5 isn't possible, then 4, but really making that kind of commitment. And it can be whatever, basically gets a person out of bed and consistent with it. It can be walking, it can be running, it can be hiking, it can be yoga, it can be Pilates. Yeah. There's a million different things out there.
Yeah, because for some people, having that big audacious goal might just simply be getting moving. Particularly if they've struggled with their health, they just think, that is a big deal for some people. Like you say, it's not always about going out and doing, going and climbing Mount Everest or swimming the channel or whatever it may be. It's what's a challenge, what's a big goal for you, something you've always thought you would like to achieve.
And no matter what you do, there's always somebody out there doing something even crazier.
Yeah, there's lots of crazy people.
So, I don't think the goal should be to be the craziest or to try to keep up with people who are doing some truly insane things, but just to find what kind of moves you forward. And in my case, I do like goal setting. I did like progressively kind of raising the stakes. And, after the 10K, then it was, let's see if I can run it faster. Then it was, let's see if I can go a little bit longer. Let's see if I can do a half marathon. But even at that point, I think doing much longer seemed crazy to me. I had once told a friend that I was as likely to run a marathon as I was to walk on the moon. But then as those intermediate goals were checked off, all of a sudden, it didn't seem so crazy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of exciting. And I like the idea that as I'm in my 60s, there are still exciting things ahead, or at least things that I'm working toward. And that's a nice feeling.
I think it's really good to have something there to look forward to and give you that sort of purpose and reason for keeping going. Because like when you're in business, it's challenging. Everything can be challenging at time. And particularly when it's a startup and it's new, there's so many things to do. And I think, yes, for some, the guilt of, oh, I'm going to do this for myself, when actually you've got this amazing, maybe big goal for your startup, but you also have this amazing goal for yourself, which is really important. Taking time out for yourself, and especially when it comes to your health and fitness, is really important. But for you, when it came to setting, because lots of people think, oh, well, a big, crazy, audacious goal. For you, how would you frame that? And how would you plan for something like that? Because everything is like when you start a business, there's a plan you execute and you go through different stages. And it's the same when you decide to take up a fitness program or take part in some sort of sport, whatever that may be. It's having this, and I always try to bring home to people the importance of planning and structuring all of that to fit everything in and make sure you achieve that goal to the best of your ability.
I think to me, what distinguishes between an ordinary goal and an audacious goal is an ordinary goal might be for somebody who's not currently active, and they have these wonderful couch to 5K or couch to 10K programs. And if you follow the program, you're going to be fine and you'll be able to knock that off. I think what makes a goal audacious is, and Jim Collins has a great description of it, but basically you're going to need to really work hard for an extended period of time. It's at the outer reaches of what you believe you are capable of accomplishing. Mm-hmm. Things are going to need to go well, and there might even need to be a little bit of luck. It shouldn't be out of reach truly, but it shouldn't be easy such that if you do the work, for sure you're going to accomplish it. And for me, I wouldn't have considered the marathon to be audacious, because I think pretty much any healthy person who does the training can count on knocking that off. But the first one that I set was a 56-mile race. And then after that, setting first a half Ironman and then a full Ironman as audacious goals for me. And so they were quite a reach, I felt. And in the end, the 56-mile one, it had strict time limits. I got cut after 51 miles, the final checkpoint before the finish line. So that one in the end truly did end up being out of my grasp. But the others I was able to achieve. And honestly, I think, as I hope that story illustrates, another reason why I think these kinds of fitness activities are great as we get older, but also as we try to be relevant in the business world, is there's so much talk these days of the value of failure and learning from failure and all the rest. But of course, failure in the business world can be quite consequential. And I feel like with fitness activities, we're creating an environment in which we can test ourselves and push ourselves and potentially fail, but in a controlled environment that candidly is low stakes. And we can learn lessons from that and make changes and perhaps try again. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And how would you correlate, when I introduced you, we talked about, the level of setting that audacious goal and its relation in terms of achieving great levels of success in your business. How would you sort of combine that? Because obviously lots of people are successful not having set a major health or fitness or sporting goal, audacious goal, or any audacious goal. They just decided that, okay, I'm going to set up this business. They've got an idea and they bring all the pieces together and launch their business. And it may or may not be successful, but if it is successful. So what's the importance of this audacious goal, and how does that translate into the level of success that you've achieved?
I think for me, it became very much a mindset thing. I think a lot of us are held back by our anxieties and our fears and perhaps don't really believe that we could do something amazing, for example, in with a business. And I think with the fitness, it kind of got me into the habit of setting tough goals, achieving them. And it just gave me the confidence that I could do that in all spheres of my life. And, with writing as well, Racing Against Time is my third book. And that's been a wonderful, wonderful journey for me as well, to set goals as a writer and to be able to achieve those. So yeah, I just feel like I just want to always believe in the Ironman motto, which I love, is anything is possible. Probably goes a little too far, but I do think in general, directionally, that is the right way to think about the world, that we should start with the assumption that we can do the things that we want to do and then set out to do them.
I mean, did you come across, were there any fears or concerns in either of those, starting up your business or taking part in these ultra marathons and things like that? Was there anything that cropped up, and how did you manage that?
Certainly with the races, especially the really challenging ones, the Ironmans, the ultras, there was a lot of anxiety leading up to those races, a lot of doubt and questioning whether I was crazy even to take them on a little bit. Why am I putting myself through this? This is supposed to be the fun part of my life.
That at the starting line? What the hell am I doing?
Exactly. And that really, and especially the second time I did Ironman, because I knew in the back of my mind, this is going to be a brutal day. So probably the last week before the race, I was just agonizing over, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to do this again. But it was great to overcome those anxieties and those fears, and then to be able to really appreciate, like, wow, I faced up to that and I was able to do it. And now I'm so happy that I did. And I love that feeling afterward, to be able to cherish having set out to do something challenging and difficult, and then actually having succeeded in doing it.
And then also when it comes to I guess the way I'm thinking is, when you're in business and it's growing, and you've obviously got fears and worries and concerns that come up as you go through that process. But having gone through something as extreme as an ultra marathon or Ironman, when you come across those little glitches, those little challenges in business, it doesn't become so overwhelming. Does it help you with that? You sort of have a bit more resilience in terms of how you handle the pressure and the stress?
I felt like it did. I mean, I feel like one of my strengths in the business world was being calm and measured and treating setbacks and problems and challenges as things that I needed to, as unemotionally as possible, confront and strategize and deal with. Just like in a race, if things go wrong, which they have at times, things have gone wrong, but just not to get upset, not to blame anything, not to go negative, but really just like, okay, this is what I'm faced with, and how do I deal with it? And I think that's a good mindset to cultivate. And certainly for me, with my startup journey, it was 11 years, lots of ups and downs, and probably only in the last 3 years, did it really seem like, okay, this is going to work. And there were plenty of times when it seemed like, no, this actually is going to completely fail.
Yeah.
But being able to just stay the course and not get down and not give up, that was, I think, for me, a huge.
How did you go through that process of not giving up? Because I've certainly been there for the years. So just many days I've had, that's it, I've had enough.
I think for me, what was essential was I really did always believe that it was a good idea and it should be able to succeed. And to me, it's the same in fitness. If I'm taking on something that I actually believe is a good idea, I can stay the course. I think it would be difficult if and certainly in business, sometimes truly you may decide, actually, this wasn't such a great idea, in which case you do need to be prepared to make a change and to go in a different direction. There's no shame in that. But given that I did always believe in it, that allowed me to just keep my head down, to keep moving forward, to absorb the setbacks and the challenges and not to get too beaten by those.
And how through all of this, how did you manage your fitness? I mean, did you come across were there any sort of little injuries and things like that set you back? And how did that reflect in terms of your approach to the training you did, your approach to the races, and then of course, how you felt day to day?
Look, I think that's a great question. And that is actually one of the things that I got out of it. I definitely got hurt a bunch of times. Hamstring pull, plantar fasciitis, I had a knee issue once. There were several other injuries along the way, a calf and I got better at heading injuries off by really learning to listen to my body. But when I did get hurt, just attending to it, seeing a physical therapist, getting a rehabilitation routine, and then following it, and then getting back on track. And I've never been hurt so bad that there was nothing I could do during the period that I was recovering. That, might have been just the bike or just swimming, but there was always something that I was able to continue to do to stay active. But I think the injury part of it, honestly, was also kind of a growth vehicle for me to be able to absorb those kinds of setbacks and being able to deal with them without losing composure or focus.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, when these little niggles happen and little things occur, problems, but it's also about preventative measures you take as well. Because it's really important when you're training for anything that you, I guess like you would in business, you assess the risk and then train according to what those risks may or may not be, according to maybe what you've struggled with your physical health and wellness or fitness, and implement a plan that includes prevention included in that. I think that for me, that would be something that would be a priority. So you just lower the risk of having anything major happen that's going to really set you back.
I totally agree. I think it's important to be mindful in terms of setting up your plan. I think if you can work with a coach, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. I've certainly benefited immensely from that. But yeah, I think being purposeful, being strategic, not just doing things without thinking, which again, I think is very much like the business world. I think planning is so important. I think logistics are so important. And for me, actually, honestly, like the logistics part is one of the great joys, getting ready for a race and really thinking through what am I going to need, what could go wrong, and planning for all of that. It's a fun thing to do. And of course, it is one of the activities that we have to engage in with a business that could fail.
Yeah. I mean, and how do you make it? Because some people are probably listening to think, oh God, I could never do that. Or I want to do it, but I want to have fun with it. Because I think you can't achieve it if you're not having fun. How do you, when things are getting tough, how do you inject that sense of fun? Because I think that would get you through anything, particularly something like an endurance sport.
The fun question is the right question. And I think the answer to it is complicated. I think that part of it is, for a lot of us, myself included, I think it's redefining what does fun mean. In other words, for me, like running a marathon or an ultra, it is not in the moment fun. I'm not out there running with a big smile on my face thinking, isn't this amazing? I think there are some people who do that, but I think they're probably in the minority. But I think that looking back on the finishing, getting that medal, looking back on the accomplishment gives you such a feeling of well-being and accomplishment and positivity. That to me that's the fun, and just feeling good about yourself, that you're taking your health seriously and you're taking action to basically give yourself the best chance to be healthy, strong, fit for as long as possible. That also is a great feeling of well-being. I do think it's important to pick fitness activities. You may have to try them for a little while before you give up on a particular one, but you should sufficiently enjoy them while you're doing them.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, I do think it can't be torture. It can't be something that you dread, like, oh my God, I'm going to do it because I have to. That's not going to be sustainable over the long haul. So I think some measure of experimentation probably is going to be necessary to figure out what are those activities that really make you happy. Whether happy in the moment or happy sufficiently after the fact. But I do think it's important to be able to kind of project forward. How am I going to feel after this workout? I've never, ever finished a workout with anything other than a great feeling of satisfaction that I did it and I'm happy that I did it. That has never been an issue, even if during the workout, at times, it can seem a bit like drudgery.
Yeah. And it's that sense of achievement, I guess, isn't it? That drives you forward. Like you say, even just going down and doing your gym routine, sometimes you think, oh, God, I really don't feel like this, but you do it because you know at the end of it, you're going to feel 10 times better. So I think, is that something that you feel a lot of people maybe lack, is having that sense of this purpose, this having something to achieve? Because I guess when we reach a certain age, everyone supposes you've got everything figured out. But I think you still need to have that level of something to look forward to, some sort of excitement, some purpose, something that you can look back on and say, this is my achievement, this is my legacy, and something I can be really proud of.
I think that's how I see it. I don't think everybody's that way, and I don't think everybody has to be that way. I think for some people, it can be enough to say, look, I get it. I'm going to be fit, and I'm going to hit the gym 5 days a week, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to enjoy it, and it's not going to be a problem for me. And I don't need the stimulation of goal setting and races and all the rest. And I think more power to the person who can do that. I think that's great. I think for me, I do feel like I need the excitement and the challenge of working out with a goal in mind and treating my exercise as training sessions in pursuit of a goal. So yeah, but I think everybody's different, and I think that's a great thing. And I think you just have to kind of figure out who you are. I think, though, to me, there's so much interest these days in health span and longevity. And I always put the longevity piece off to one side. I think there are so many variables there. There's so much of it that we don't control. But health span, how long we can be fit, healthy, active, we have immense input on what that will look like. And if we take our fitness seriously, it will pay dividends. Kind of no ifs, ands, or buts. This is not something that is cutting edge or controversial. And so I think, if we care about how we age, and I think we should engage with this issue of fitness and exercise, and how do we make our midlife and beyond as wonderful as it can be.
Yeah. I mean, I did read some research a little while ago now on athletes, and it was like former athletes who sort of came out of sport, and as they got older, as they reached their midlife 40s and beyond, actually, if they did quite well and they maintained their health and fitness, had a much better aging experience rather. So this is, for me, is one reason that's certainly keeping up my health and fitness. I've been doing it a long time, many, many years, is that thought of, I want my independence. I want to, keep my dignity and all this. It goes away from the physical aesthetics to actually having something that's going to keep me fit and strong. But I also want to be excited about it. I want to have, like we talked earlier, about fun and having that purpose behind it. And I think a lot of people lack that. And that's where they struggle, maybe.
I think that's right. And this is an exciting time. And we have the Winter Olympics are going on now. There are several 40-something athletes that I've been reading about. And it's amazing. It's incredible what people are doing, and people are doing unbelievable things at later ages than we've ever seen in the past. And I think it really is, an increasing recognition that we can do extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And it just really is an issue of getting out there and getting started and then being consistent.
I mean, if you notice anything sort of with regards how you feel or in terms of your own health and fitness, other than the physicalities, have you noticed a change since you've been doing all these extreme sports as opposed to what it was like before? Have you noticed anything within yourself, as it were?
Yeah, I just feel like I move through life with more confidence, walk down the street with more confidence. I still feel like my younger self in many ways. And I like that feeling. I like the feeling of energy. I like the feeling that I can lift heavy things. I like the feeling that I can just be confident in my body and my abilities. It's a nice thing as I get older to still be able to hold on to that. And I imagine it won't last forever, but I'd like it to last as long as it can. And it's exciting for me that I'm able to do things now that I couldn't have done in my 20s.
What sort of things would you say that is?
The distance running in particular. I mean, I never would have thought it was something that was going to be part of my life. Being able to run marathons kind of as a matter of routine is very exciting to me. Even though at the end of the day, I'm not a great runner, I'm certainly not a very fast marathoner, but it's still fun to be part of that world and to be in those settings. It's actually quite exciting.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. But also as well, I want to get in a little bit into your book as well, because we do want to share all the juice from it. Share your strategies. So everyone will be thinking, oh, what's in this book and how can I implement it into my life? Although I do advise people to go and get some help and make sure if you are thinking about doing anything crazy, do get the right sort of doctor's clearance and get a good plan in place.
Absolutely.
So tell us, let's get into your book a little bit. Racing against time. Getting all tongue-tied here. My brain's going faster than my mouth.
That usually happens to me too.
Okay. So what does that for you? What does that mean? What is it you would like to share with people and use that as a metaphor?
It very purposefully has a double meaning. In races, the clock is a factor and you're racing for a time and you're cognizant of the speed at which you're moving and what that might translate into in terms of a finishing time. But of course also racing against father time, not with the goal of living forever or beating the aging process. We're all going to age and we're all going to have to make some concessions as we age, but really being able to alter kind of the arc of our fitness as we get older by taking positive action. And so for me, when I first got started with endurance sports, I was really inspired by memoirs of folks who had done what I thought were pretty cool things, starting off at a low level, kind of like I did, and then progressing and doing pretty incredible things. It gave me inspiration. It gave me hope. It gave me some confidence that maybe those things could be within reach for me too. And of course, there were some practical tips along the way that helped me when I did my first marathon with my planning and that kind of thing. So my goal was to write the kind of book that I would have wanted to read back when I was getting started and that hopefully will help others who were considering going down this road. And again, not specifically toward any particular event or sport, but just kind of starting this journey. It doesn't have to be about guilt and anxiety and, I better start exercising or I'm going to age in a way that I wouldn't want to age.
Yeah.
It'd be exciting to start off on something new, on a journey. And I really, it sounds, I guess, like a cliche, but I just love this metaphor. I love this feeling that my life is a journey and there are still some very interesting destinations that I have yet to reach. And I think that's fun. I think it's exciting. I like the idea of being optimistic and hopeful and forward looking. I think it enhances life to go through it that way.
Yeah, I think we can get a little bit stuck as we get older, thinking time is running out.
Yeah, very much so.
So we either go into absolute urgency mood and panic and do everything too quick without taking proper safety precautions, or we think, well, what's the point? And it's like, how would you, if someone is going through that sort of confusion, from your experience, how would you help them manage that? What would you say to someone who is saying, well, look, I'm scared, I'm getting older. If something happens to me, it's going to be harder for me to come back from it. I really have this goal. I've always wanted to do it, but never had the time. But now I have the time. But at the same time, I want to go at this the right pace and the right time. And how would you suggest someone balances all of that out, sort of the fears with the excitement as well?
I think it's important to be thoughtful about how you proceed. In other words, I think everybody should be looking for a way to integrate fitness into their lives, but you should be thoughtful. pick activities that are appropriate. If you can take classes, work with coaches, whatever that might be. When I started running, I literally took a 2-month running class for that first 10K. The 10K was the goal of the running class. And so the instructors taught me a lot of the basics of running, of training, of racing. And it was a wonderful, easy way to get started. And I think it really got me launched in a very positive way. But I think, at the end of the day, again, it's just not a controversial thing. And I think people should bear that in mind. In other words, if you exercise, and it doesn't matter when you start, you can start in your 50s, your 40s, your 80s, your 90s even. Whenever you start, you will see improvement. It will enhance the quality of your life. And to me, the question shouldn't be, do I do it or not? Is it too late or not? I think the question should be really, how do I do it? What's the best way? What's going to bring me the most joy, pleasure, satisfaction? And I think that should be the goal. And in terms of the injury risk, I think, the injuries, almost always are going to be manageable. But again, I don't think they're inevitable if you are thoughtful about how you're approaching things. And again, I'm not advocating for people like everybody has to get a marathon or an ultra or an Ironman on their bucket list. I think that, we all just need to find out what is going to be most fulfilling for ourselves and then pursue that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So if someone wants to say, okay, Jeff, you've done all these amazing things. What does a day look like for Jeff Weiss with everything he's got going on? How do you structure your training and your day-to-day life? Because obviously that's people think, well, how am I going to do this? And it's obviously not impossible because you're doing it.
I think for me, I have two main things that I pursue outside. One is writing and one is fitness. And so I start every day with 1 hour of writing, and I'm very deliberate about that. It's 1 hour. It's not 50 minutes. It's not an hour and 10 minutes. Even if I'm feeling not into it, it's an hour. Even if I'm feeling like it's super easy, it's an hour. And then I train. I train anywhere from 1 to 2.5 hours a day. Typically, most days it's more than one thing. So it might be a cycle, and I'm getting more and more into yoga. I'm realizing that I need to work more on my flexibility, and it took me a while to finally find, and I guess that's a great example of sometimes you really have to give something a chance before you can decide if it works for you. I made a commitment to it about 6 months ago, and for like the first 3 months, I basically hated every minute of every session, and then actually broke through. And now I look forward to it, and I'm finally seeing progress and gains, and it really feels nice. So I really take this pay yourself first thing quite seriously. So I do those things, and then my workday starts.
Yeah. And how do you manage touched on it briefly, you've got family life as well, because do you have lots of demands in terms of that with what you're doing?
Not really. I'm older now. My kids are grown and launched. And obviously I think you have to be mindful of family considerations. I couldn't have done these things when I was involved in raising young kids. To take off and run for 3 hours getting ready for a marathon when you've got infants at home, I don't think that's
conducive to happy family life.
It's not conducive to a happy family life. And you do want to put that first. And I'm not someone who believes that, fitness should crowd out everything. Of course not. I think that that your relationship, your family, your kids, those things do have to come first, and you have to maneuver around those. But I think it gets easier, perversely, as we get older. It gets actually easier to integrate things like fitness into our lives. In our 40s, our 50s, our careers hopefully are on a good track. They're pretty established. Our kids are older and don't need quite as much attention from us. And that's when I think we do have much more of an ability to really get serious about our physical health.
Yeah. And also, I want to touch back a little bit on business success as well. We did speak about it earlier, but in terms of creating that level of success, obviously I spoke in the intro about that you managed to sell your startup for $3 billion. And that's a considerable amount for a startup. How did that happen? If that's the right question, how did that come about? And what part did that level of fitness play in you being able to lead that business to that level of success? Financial success?
Well, I was one member of the senior team. I was a C-suite executive, but it wasn't, other than a brief stint as interim president for about 8 months, I wasn't the leader of the company. I just think, persevering, I think for us, it was a combination of things. I think we made some good decisions with respect to our products, with respect to the regulatory framework, with respect to where the industry was going, where regulations were going, and really trying to adjust our strategies as we needed to over time. Certainly made some mistakes along the way, but learning from those and making the necessary changes, which again, I find to be very much like tackling exercise in a serious way. starting with one activity, realizing it's not working or that in some fashion needs to be adjusted, finding a different coach if a particular coach is no longer, helping you really get to the next level, whatever it might be. I just find the two things to be so similar in terms of the skills that they require and the benefits that they give you.
I often think that sometimes when you've been taking part in sport, your executive function is sharpened, your cognitive function, how you react and respond to things. You see opportunities at a level and a pace that maybe if you're more deconditioned, it's not that you don't notice them, but you're a little bit slower in terms of seeing, because you think of an athlete, particularly if, say, they play a team sport, they're very quick and aware of what's happening around them and where the opportunity is to score the goal, win the match, whatever it may be. And I just think of it sometimes a little bit like that as well, because you've trained your mental capacity, the psychological capacity to a higher level. Therefore, your ability to deal with multiple things and see opportunities all at the same time is increased.
Yeah, I think so. To me, any long race is a series of problem-solving challenges. And, if it's an especially hot day, oh my gosh, I'm getting dehydrated. I need to take in more fluids, and cramping is starting. I need to take in some salt. And I had to have planned for the potential for that and to have included salt in my equipment for the day.
Yeah.
But it's just one kind of problem-solving issue after another. I had a flat tire in a race, had to deal with that. And it's kind of fun and exciting. And I like solving problems.
I think it's that ability as well to stay focused, because if you're in the middle of a race and obviously you want to win, you must be a naturally competitive guy. And something like a flat tire, for most people, they say, oh my God, it's disaster, it's chaos, I'm going to lose. How do you manage to keep that level of focus and just focus on getting that resolved, but still being able to get through that race and achieve a successful time or win a race or whatever it may be?
Well, for me, certainly these are never about winning. I'm not particularly fast, but I think with the flat tire, it was in one of my Ironman races. And I think part of it was, okay, I've got to solve this. And part of it was looking for a bright side. And it was kind of like, okay, actually, it was at a point in the race. I think I'd been racing probably for 10 hours. It's like, okay, actually, you know what? I'm being forced to rest for 10 or 15 minutes while I fix this tire. That's not an entirely bad thing. And so, trying to find a positive in it, but also not catastrophizing, oh my God, this is so unfair. This is so bad. And now it's going to make, it's going to have all these spillover negative effects. I think catastrophizing is never a good thing, not in sport and not
no matter what your age is.
Yeah. So, but I think just developing that skill, making it a habit to not get down on yourself, not to blame others, not to feel sorry for yourself, and to look for a potential opportunity, for a potential bright side, and then moving forward with, hopefully with a smile.
Yeah, that's it. As long as you're happy at the end of it, that's the most important thing.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you were to share your top 5 tips to someone, what would they be?
I think it would be set a goal for yourself in terms of your fitness. I read a book early on that advocated for training 6 days a week, 45 minutes each time, which I very literally followed at the beginning. And I think that actually is a good formula for most of us. So again, whether it's 6 days, 5 days, 4 days, set a very specific goal, commit yourself to it. I think that's one. I think 2, pay yourself first. You really want to make this a habit in your life, something that you do without thinking, that you're not fighting with yourself. You're not having an argument with yourself. Oh, do I feel like it? Do I have time? You really want to build it into your schedule, make it a priority. I think that's 2. I think 3, experiment until you find that 1 or 2 or 3 activities that you really enjoy, and that you will persist in doing, because this shouldn't be drudgery. It shouldn't be suffering. It shouldn't be misery. I think number 4, if you can find an opportunity to work with a professional, with a coach, I think that can really give structure to it and make it emotionally easier. So I think that's super important. And then I guess number 5, I think a health club, a gym is probably going to be part of the solution for pretty much, for most of us. Really try to pick one that you're going to look forward to going to. So even if it's a little more money, as long as you can afford it, even if it's a little bit farther away from where you live, if it's a place that's going to put a smile on your face when you walk in the door because it's a really pleasing atmosphere and all of the rest, that counts for a lot as compared to one that's maybe physically quite convenient, perhaps less expensive, but that just doesn't actually make you happy in the same way. Because I do think happiness, joy, pleasure needs to be a component of this in the right measure if it's going to be successful over the long haul.
Yeah, I think, like you say, joy, happiness, and having that sense of purpose, that makes anything easier. I think anything you're going to try or attempt. But it takes a little bit of searching, doesn't it? It takes a little bit of effort to go and find those things. You've got to try things and decide and then try something else. It's, and dip your toe in and come back out.
Yeah. And I think no matter what, like, for example, running the first time, incredibly painful after that first run, and maybe after the second and third run too, where you're sore. You're using muscles that you haven't been using before. Your body's not used to it. With some sports, you'll feel awkward doing them the first time. Yoga, certainly for me, felt incredibly awkward the first bunch of times. But then as you persist and you get better and it starts to become more familiar, then it takes on a different kind of feeling. And so I think it's important to try different things, to really give them a fair, honest, sincere opportunity before giving up and moving on to something else.
So what is next for Jeff? What have you got something planned for?
I do. My current project is there are 6 original world major marathons, London, Berlin, Tokyo, Chicago, New York, Boston. They've added a 7th, but those are the 6 originals. Sydney is the 7th, and they may well be adding an 8th and a 9th. But if you do those original 6, you earn a 6-star medal.
Okay.
For a lot of folks like me who do lots of races, medals were always an attraction. So I've done 3 of them. I've done Tokyo.
The London one? Because the London one's coming up.
Yeah, I did London last April, did Berlin last September, did Tokyo in 2024. And my goal is to do hopefully Chicago in the coming year, followed probably by New York, and then with Boston being the final one. And then I'll figure something else out in terms of a new goal. I do believe.
Do you have any big dream now, big, audacious, hairy goal that you haven't done yet, but you're thinking, do you know what? I want to do this before I die?
It's a good question. I don't with the same clarity that I did before. Like Ironman and ultras were a great audacious goal for me to set. I'm not looking to go further than 72 miles. I'm not looking to do an even more difficult Ironman or a double Ironman or anything like that. So I'm still trying to figure out. I did a 50-mile trail race that I really, really loved. I think for me now, it's almost more about going wider rather than just, going progressively harder and trying to find new things that will be exciting that I haven't done before and that I will really get a lot of pleasure out of having it on my calendar and having that to look forward to for a period of months or a year or more while I prepare. So my mind is open and I'm searching, but beyond the world majors, haven't set any longer term goals just yet.
With lots to look forward to. So if people wanted to follow your story or get in touch with you or find out more, where can they actually find you on, whether it's on socials or anywhere else?
I think the best place, the book, of course, is on Amazon.
We'll put the link in the show notes. So
fantastic. And then I have a website, jeffreyweissauthor.com. I'm on LinkedIn. There's a contact thing on the website, and also I could be contacted on LinkedIn. But yeah, would love to hear from people. And truly, my goal is to really encourage others to find a way to, really to live their best life from a fitness point of view.
Well, as you said, isn't it? You wanted to make it more accessible so people could live a really great, vigorous, active life for as long as they wish it to be.
Absolutely. I think that's it in a nutshell.
And what is the key, would you say, for anyone out there, whether they're trainers, organizations, sports clubs, whatever they are, what is it that they need to do to make it more accessible to people of midlife and beyond who are looking to start a big, hairy, audacious goal?
I think to try to come up with a way to make the start less frightening. I think that is the hardest part, to really begin on a journey like this. And so whether it's like for me, that running class really was a tremendous thing. It wasn't just instruction in the basics of running, but they had a speaker every Monday night, one of whom in particular really, I think, changed the course of my life in the sense that he was the one who got me focused on this 6 days a week thing. He referenced that book, which I later read, and I think that was really a big thing for me. Whether it's setting up classes like that running class or seminars, but really taking people by the hand and addressing common fears and anxieties, giving people strategies and really helping them get over that those initial doubts, those initial hurdles because once you make fitness a regular part of your life, you're probably not going to drop that, but you have to get to that point in order to be able to just continue with very little willpower or struggle.
Yeah. You kind of have to go through that bit of struggle and sticking with it, but keep in your mind the reason it's important for you to do that. Because if that's in the back of your mind, that is what's going to get you up every morning. That's going to get you out of the house. It's going to get you doing what you need to do to achieve that goal.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
No, I wish everybody the very best on this journey. think that, I think we're all capable of surprising ourselves. And so I really do encourage folks to really look at, are they satisfied with where they are now? And if not, how can they perhaps make some changes that will really enhance their lives and the lives of the people who care about them and perhaps count on them.
So everybody go out there, look Jeff up. It'll encourage him and it'll give you some inspiration and encouragement and motivation too. Go out, get his book, put the link in the show notes for you. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much, Jeff, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and share your story and give your strategies and your tips and give people ideas to create their big, audacious, hairy goal. And thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, Julia, for having me. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Well, that's goodbye from me and Jeff, and we'll see you next time here on Unleash Your Inner Athlete. Thank you.